Hello, and welcome to another episode of Canada's Food and Everything Else Food Safety Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jay Ashton, with Dominic. Welcome, Dominic. Welcome back.
Hello.
Today's topic, a little different. Might make you a little uncomfortable, but we thought it'd be really cool and interesting. I don't know if cool is the right word, but it'd be really interesting to talk about this really current issue that happened in Calgary with cockroaches being found in a restaurant. So Dominic, tell us a little bit more what's happened here as we start this show today.
Yeah. In the news this past week, a local restaurant here in Calgary was closed down due to a cockroach infestation, and which is not good, obviously. And reading the story, the ownership, basically claims that public health was sneaky and found cockroaches, where they couldn't see them, and just overall gave me a bad impression of, and speaks to how some restaurants, do a bad job, blame public health, and are looking to blame everybody else except themselves for an issue, and that gives the restaurant industry a really bad rap, undeservedly, because as we know, most restaurants do a really good job. They have really good practices in place. So
I was going to ask then. Well, I was going to ask around this is so to cockroaches, how they're not a part of the Alberta, I guess, bug scene the world.
Generally, no.
No. So how do they get into our restaurants here?
Lots of ways. They can come in with produce, with your groceries. They've come. I don't know what cockroach they found there, but generally the one that's seen in restaurants a lot is, they call it the German cockroach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's this specific one. They didn't say what the actual species was, but it can come in with people as well. Never mind, the food.
Oh yeah, the front, like people coming into the restaurant.
Yeah, well, your customers for sure, but more likely is your staff than customers. But and then once they get in there, if the location is hospitable to them, it's nice and warm. There's lots of food, meaning dirt or grease, or the place is not clean. Then they can quickly establish a home and start multiplying, and you've got a real big problem on your hand really quick.
Now, are they hard to get out of a restaurant? Do you know?
Yeah, hard to get rid of, because they can be really small, right? They can squish down and basically, get down between your baseboard and your wall, like really, really tight spaces they can get into, and get them behind a wall or behind a piece of equipment, or in a drain somewhere, in a ceiling, anywhere wow. you can't see, they can be.
They can get to. So it's devastating. It's really devastating then for a lot of restaurants that this happens to, right?
Yeah, I think given the reaction of this restaurant, I think it's going to be hard for them to recover, because they're really pointing the finger at public health for discovering the issue in what I think the owner says was a place that they couldn't see. So that comment to me is it speaks to attitude as much as it speaks to what's going on, because the attitude that the person put out there is that they had no control over it, and it was kind of sprung on them. It's like, well, No, that's not how it works. If you're in there and you're there every day, highly unlikely that public health saw it without the restaurant seeing it.
So would it have been someone reporting it then?
Either that or public health. I don't know, Jay, because the
Saw
details
something
aren't
come
there.
across? Yeah.
Yeah, like somebody could have reported. I think that's what the owner of the restaurant was saying, that
Yeah.
somebody had a vendetta against them and called it in.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well, it
but
is, yeah,
that
and
can
I can see
happen.
sometimes it can
Yeah,
happen,
for
right?
sure.
And I think some
But for
restaurants.
public health to shut them down, if somebody can have a vendetta and report it. Um, but if public health shuts you down, and they're not shutting you down because they didn't see something, they're shutting you
Mhm,
down because they actually saw something. There's
yeah.
evidence. They have to play.
So,
They have to follow protocol, and
yeah.
their public health is reluctant to shut restaurants down. As much as I think this restaurant, it makes it sound like public health is really aggressive and being really tough. Public health
That's not the case.
is absolutely not.
Yeah.
They're really reluctant to shut restaurants down without good reason, and in this case, it's a really good reason, because they're shutting down somebody's livelihood. They understand that their people aren't going to be getting paid. The workers
Yeah.
that are there, there's no income until that gets fixed, and then um, there's also probably largely diminished income coming into the business because of the negative publicity. So they don't take this lightly. They're really careful um, to
And
make
that
sure
and
that
does that include all spaces then, Dominic? Every time they
yeah,
see
for
them
sure.
at a talk or watch, they go
No,
through.
yeah, yeah. There was another restaurant shut down, I think, last summer in Calgary, in downtown, for cockroaches as well, right? So
Yeah.
the cockroaches can get in there easily. If you have a good cleaning program in place, you have a good pest control program in place, th- that can be easy to handle because you're monitoring for them with your pest control program. They got glue
Mhm,
traps out. Pest control will come in and look, not just for mice, right? They're going to look for what's crawling, and they'll
mhm.
catch one of those crawling insects, in this case cockroaches, in one of those glue traps, and they'll say, okay, hey, I spotted one roach, right? Or I spotted two roaches, and
Yeah.
then they'll put a plan in place to, they're going to find out where they are in the business, um, what they're coming in with, if there's a bigger problem than just one or two, and then put place, and usually, well, not usually, always, the pest control company, in this case, I think they did not have pest control in place.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure that,
Do most restaurants have a pest control program or should?
well, most all restaurants should have a pest control program in Alberta.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, you have to. It's a risk. It's a
Yeah.
huge risk.
No, it's a good
You've got
point
tons
though.
of food, right? You got tons of food. You got lots of water. In most restaurants, you got some sort of fryer or grease in a lot of
Yeah.
restaurants. So you have lots of food sources for pests, lots of nooks and crannies for pests to get
Mhm.
into, lots of stuff coming in and out with your groceries. You got staff coming in and out. You got employees coming in and out. You've got public coming in and out. So yeah, you have to have a pest control program in place. And in Alberta, you the legislation actually says you have to have a written program in place for
So
monitoring.
so what's so what's that mean? What's that mean? Tell us more about that.
It doesn't mean that you have to hire a pest control company to do your pest control,
Yeah.
but which we strongly recommend that you have a company do it. But if you can't afford it, that doesn't mean you can't comply. You can do your own pest control program, which is you can put out bait traps, or
Yeah.
not trap, like glue traps,
Yeah.
or these
Yeah.
tin cats. Like, you could buy those and have those in your restaurant, and you have to have a record of what you're doing. So monthly,
Really?
you can inspect those traps, and you keep a log, and that public health, that's acceptable to public health.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, because
Did
if
not
you're
know this.
just starting a restaurant, you might not be able to afford an extra $75 a month for pest control
Well, it
or
adds
100
up,
bucks.
right? It
Yeah, no,
all adds up.
all those expenses add up. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep the public safe and protect your business. Well,
Yeah.
so the public, you have to keep the public safe. Cockroaches can spread disease, like other insects. They can spread salmonella,
They can do
staphylococcus.
salmonella? Are
Yeah,
you serious?
yeah. Same for mice, right?
Jeez.
So, a pest infestation is a big deal, especially cockroaches and even fruit flies and flies, because they're harder to control than mice. Like mice, they can get in and cause lots of havoc, but
Yeah.
um, uh, insects are even harder to control because they're so small. So they can get
Mhm.
it, they can get it to walls, they can get underneath it, like really, really small places. Um, in some in processing facilities, to do that control, a lot of places will take everything out of the cardboard before they bring it in the kitchen because cardboard is known to have insect eggs in it, like cockroaches. If you know the little corrugation on cardboard,
Okay.
you know how that works. You know how they got these little
Ooh. Yeah, yeah,
corrugation
yeah,
on
yeah,
cardboard.
yeah,
I don't know how big that is, like an eighth
yeah,
of an inch or something.
yeah.
Cockroaches can fit in there. They can squeeze their body up and fit in there.
No way.
Yes, way. So, having a good supplier is important because
Yeah.
your suppliers have pest control measures in place,
Mhm.
right? So if you've got a good supplier, okay, well, I know they're doing what they can to keep my goods
Yeah.
safe. Having a clean establishment is important, obviously, because if something does come in, there's no food source for those pests. And
Yeah.
then a spectacular cleaning and sanitizing program, because if you're keeping everything clean and sanitized, because stuff happens, stuff falls on the floor,
Yeah.
stuff falls behind the equipment, right? So I can't just clean the floor in front of my prep line. I got to pull that equipment out once a week. I got to maybe daily, depending on the volume you're doing, right? And get behind it and clean that up, wash it,
Wow.
sanitize it, and that that's prevention, right?
So I have a question for you. So when I want to talk a little bit about the importance of and how to cooperate with inspectors that come in because you've
Yeah,
probably been around this enough. You know what to
yeah.
do. What's some of those recommendations when a restaurant has an inspector come in that really helps them and prevents, makes them on their side so it's not confrontational all the time?
Yeah, I
Because
think
it
the
does
first
happen. It does happen, right?
100%. The first thing is when public health inspections, for the most part, are they're unannounced. They're random. You don't know they're
They're
coming.
random.
Yeah. So if it if they find something, it really should not be a surprise to you. So the first thing is to understand that their job is to protect the public, to protect the people that consume
Mhm.
food there, or that public health inspectors inspect tanning salons and tattoo parlors too, right? And seniors' homes. So their job is to protect the public. The byproduct of that is they're protecting your business. Lots of
Mhm.
people don't see that as that, but the reality is the public health inspector is protecting your business by the public having confidence in eating at restaurants. So in this case,
Okay.
guess what? This is in the news. How many people do you think are confident in eating at XYZ
Yeah.
restaurant that had a cockroach infestation? And then reading the lady's comments that, oh, public health found it, some cockroaches where we couldn't see them.
Yeah.
So the confidence level from the public is gone. And for me
Mhm.
it is. I'm sure some people would still eat there, but for
Yeah.
me it would be, well, Could you have an infestation from a neighboring business? Could other things happen? 100% other things can happen. If you cooperate and help make it better, public health is your friend. If
Yeah.
you um, don't see the issue they point out as an issue, and you think they're out to get you, it's never going to work. It's not this business
Now,
is likely to be successful in any shape or form because um, a cockroach infestation, a mouse infestation, an extremely
mhm.
dirty restaurant, none of those things are acceptable to anybody. They're just not.
Now, do you think the media, though? I don't want to touch on the media too much, but do you think the media then takes this and then just fires it up?
um,
Because the way the media is saying is it's significant. There's some key things that they're doing there to emphasize this, and I don't know if that's necessary because I've seen this before in media is that they tend to take it and they kind of tip way over to the most extreme side of it,
I think
and it doesn't help the business out.
no. I'm mixed on this. I'm
Okay,
mixed on it
okay.
because I think yeah,
I
let's
got
say
you quiet.
20 years. Yes, rare, right, Jay?
Yeah.
Um, they in lots of states, lots of places, lots of cities in the U.S. They have a dirty dining segment. Believe it or not,
A what?
it's called dirty dining.
No way.
It's generally on Fox, but it's on other stations too. But um, dirty dining, they take the public health inspections from the week and they highlight the worst infractions in certain cities. Like I'll send you some
No way.
YouTube videos you can see. Yes, for sure. So do they hype it up? Yes. A significant infestation. I think they say significant infestation because the closure order, and I have the closure order. It's public information. I'll send
Yeah.
it to you. You can read what the closure order says.
Yeah.
Um, public health would not shut down a restaurant because they saw one cockroach. They
Mm,
just wouldn't. They
yeah.
have to. It has to be a public health threat. It has to be a
Yeah.
public health hazard. Is one roach? One roach could be a hazard for sure. Less likely than hundreds of them. I'm sure
Yeah.
they saw more than one. I'm sure they saw many, many, many roaches on top of the other things.
Hmm.
And then I think couple that with an uncooperative business, that's dangerous. So
Hmm.
is the media hyping it up? In Canada, generally, I would say no. I think the media is, as much as the restaurant industry doesn't like it, good operators need these bad operators out of business.
Yeah.
Those restaurants tarnish the entire industry. Sad to
Yeah.
say, I don't like saying that, but um, the, the restaurants have the ability to do a good job,
Hmm. We do.
right? So
And I
if
think,
if
well, I think it's also the decision on, like, you have a decision too, right? To either not have these procedures. In a lot of places, I'll be honest, I didn't know you had to have a pest control, or you should have a pest control plan or a strategy in place in your restaurant. I really didn't know that. It makes sense, but I think a lot of these places probably get into a position of dealing with all the other things that are on their plate, and these things kind of fall off. And then, unfortunately, these things come up, and it's another story that we all go, "No way, I ate there last week," or something like that. And then we're having to deal with all the things that comes from that. So it sucks all the way around. It sucks for the business. It
yeah,
sucks for the people that dining. It sucks for the industry. It just sucks. It just absolutely sucks.
yeah, I feel sorry for the business as well. I agree.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Um,
Yeah.
the the reality is that business very likely started out
Yeah.
immaculate, right?
Yeah.
Public health wouldn't have allowed them to open without a clean inspection to start with.
So
Now,
does this? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, now public health is there. We talk about this in training all the time. It's like, how often does public health come to your business?
Yeah.
And there's some factors in there. It's risk based. In most places, they've got this sort of risk matrix that says depends on the food you make.
Okay.
How many people you're serving. What the risk is. The size of the business, how many seats, all those things. In general, it might be twice a year for most
Okay.
restaurants. And going back a little bit to, a lot of places don't have a pest control program in place. And that, even though it's in the regulation that you need to have a
Mhm.
monitored program, right? Or records of your program. So you don't necessarily have to have a written program saying, here's what I'm going to do, like a
Yeah.
procedure, but you have to have records of what you're doing. So
Wow.
public that won't come up with public health if they come to Jay's restaurant and there's no issues, and they come to Jay's restaurant again and there's no issues,
Yeah.
and then next year they come to Jay's restaurant and there's no issues. There's no reason for public health to ask and even see your records. They see
Wow.
no evidence of pests. Hey, Jay's doing the right thing. His temperatures are good. He's got his sanita- his You're supposed to have a written sanitation program in Alberta as well.
No way.
Yes, wait. Yeah, yeah. You're supposed to have a written program for
Are you
sanitation.
kidding me?
Now,
I had
no,
no idea about this. I
now
had
you're in
no
this business.
idea.
You've been working where you've been working too long. You need to get back out there, back
I
out
did
there,
not
and
know. I did not know.
um, yeah, and again, important, right? It's important. It's important stuff. But it's not going to come up unless there's an issue. Public health is extremely busy. Their resources are really thin. They have to focus on the places that need it, which is
Yeah.
again good, right? So if you're doing a great job, they might only have to be at your restaurant for half an hour. They go down the street to X XMZ, and that restaurant's got a pest problem. They've got refrigeration problem. They've got consumer complaints. They So public health needs to be there to make sure that restaurant gets into compliance.
Yeah. So how hard it is to get rid of, like, okay, we talked about it's hard to get rid of those kind of bugs, but can those bugs live in water? Like, what's some of the environment that they can live in? Like
They like
because I in winter?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, they're
No
inside, right?
way.
Well,
They
they're
can live
inside, Jay. Not
they
outside.
survive
No,
through
no,
winter?
not outside. No, no.
Okay.
They're not living outside. They're
Okay.
living inside your kitchen. They're living in bakeries. We would see them in the proofer walls. In a restaurant, you're going to see them behind the stove, underneath the stove, in the drawers of a stove. If you've got any kind of oven that has
Yeah.
a drawer underneath, between the stove and the table that's beside it. Um, it there's bits of food that's down there. There's grease. It's warm in the tray of the evaporation tray at the bottom of a stand up cooler. You'd see
Yeah.
roaches in there. It's nice and warm. The dish pit. You're gonna have huge roach problems in there if you get an
Yeah.
infestation. There's always water. There's always little bits of food.
Yeah.
That's a really nice place to live if I'm a cockroach.
Yeah, and the amount of grime and stuff that happens just in
Exactly.
any restaurant, that's gonna be
Yeah.
the area, my guess. And then, so you can't has restaurants got them out before? Has it
Oh yeah.
happened?
Yeah. You can for sure. You can get them out. You can. It's a lot of work.
I can
I
imagine,
suspect
and money.
and money. Yeah. I suspect that this restaurant, um, I think it's in the report that there's a cleaning issue there as well.
Yeah,
So um, when you and a lot of times, unfortunately, when things get tough, the cleaning gets cut. When business is
yeah.
tough, the cleaning
I
gets
have seen
tough.
it. I've seen it.
For sure. happens, right? So soon as that happens, that's that's a problem, because if 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 you do get some pests inside, mice, roaches, insects, ants, anything, uh, they're gonna have a
Yeah.
really nice food source. They're gonna have a nice place to live, and it's gonna be hard to get rid of them. So cleaning is part of it. Having, soon as you have something that is beyond you being able to determine immediately, like I'm talking like in the next 10, 15 minutes, figuring out where the problem is and cleaning it and getting rid of it, you need to call in professional pest control.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sucks. It's going to be expensive, but you need to, and more importantly, on top of calling them in, following the advice they give you. Because they're going to tell you, usually they're going to tell you clean the place up, right? For sure.
Mhm.
But they're going to tell you you need to do A, B, C,
Oh, they
D, and
have
E.
procedures. They have
Oh yeah,
procedures.
100%.
So how
That's their job to figure these things out and get rid of them. They might spray, they might put down an insecticide as well, right?
yeah. No, the worst thing that would happen is someone then, and this is a thing that I think a lot of the times that we forget, is that perception of what people have went there and said, you know what, I was feeling pretty sick. I ate there that one time. And then all of a sudden that's another heap of stuff that's going to come your way based on people. And I'm sure that's happened before
Oh
where
yeah.
people related it back to, and it probably wasn't even the fact of what it was,
No,
right?
and hard to prove.
And
Again,
hard to
I
prove,
think
hard to prove.
super hard to prove, very hard to prove. Um, but when it goes to court, and the judge is sitting there weighing stuff, and looks, oh yeah, there was a public health closure for a pest infestation, and there was public health noted on 3 previous inspections that the place was filthy,
Yeah.
and public health noted that the ownership was combative and looking to blame everybody but themselves. um, those stack up against you.
Yeah. So
So
do you think we're going to see more of this as we see more restaurants opening, especially in Calgary? They're opening everywhere, which is absolutely awesome to hear and see. But do you think we're going to see more of this, or is this just going to? It seems like it's in the news every few months. We see another pop up, or is it
yeah,
just because we're getting better at inspecting?
I don't. Yeah,
Come
I don't
on,
know.
Dominic,
Somebody
give us your
somebody brought
crystal
up
ball.
somebody brought up climate change, even as it's
Okay,
warming.
okay. Is it
No,
true?
well, no,
Now,
I don't think so.
no?
Absolutely not. Yeah, you know what? Is it a little bit warmer? Yeah, I don't know what the number is, but is that lead to it? If they get into a clean restaurant and you got a cleaning and pest control program, you ain't having a
Yeah,
problem. There's places in the tropics where these things live
yeah.
outside and they don't go through
True,
6 months
true,
of winter, right?
true,
Um,
true.
and those restaurants don't have that issue. Is it harder to control in those environments? 100%, because just outside your door, there's 50 billion of them. Um,
Mhm.
it it is harder to control, uh, but a cleaning program, a pest control program, an owner or manager that understands the risk mitigates all those things, because
Yeah,
and the first thing might be, well, like we've spoken before, is the manager or owner's attitude,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because if
yeah, and
they're
it yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that's gonna be huge, right? And what that looks like is that, there's a lot of different ways of I feel for restaurants that go through this because you're going through so much stress at the time. You got media knocking on your door, you're having to close down, your people are losing their jobs. You're dealing with this media, you're dealing with a problem. It's a lot of stress on a lot of people. So the reactions, I sometimes wonder if that's caused not intentionally, but it's just all that pressure coming down at once, and how they react to those situations is unfortunate. It
Yeah.
really is. No one trained you in business school on how to deal with a cockroach in your restaurant.
Well, but guess what? We train them
Okay.
in food handler training on
There you
how
go.
to.
That was my next question. That was I walk into that. Well, I was going to ask you, like, what resources are out there then for training people on this?
Well, it's part. There's a pest control section in our food handler program,
Okay.
so we talk about it. And we talk about the need for all these things. Having a pest control program by itself isn't going to save your business.
Mm.
Having taking food handler training by itself isn't going to save your business. Having a cleaning program by itself is not going to save your business. But if you put all those things together, I buy from a good supplier.
Yeah.
I keep my place clean and sanitized. I have pest control in place. I train my staff. I talk about personal hygiene with my staff. I have them take food handler training, which also talks about personal hygiene. We have
Mhm.
policies and procedures, and it don't have to be written policies. In a small restaurant, that's not always possible. We're not asking you to go write a book. But having a standard in place and having the leader of that business know that all these things are important, along with making money and serving our customers. All these things, if they're done right, that gives you a chance of success with your customers. If you do any of these things wrong, you might get business to start, right? People might come there because
Yeah.
they want to try something new or they're going to try. Um, but I think the lady's right. This is going to really kill her business because
Yeah.
now, if public health was wrong, if those roaches were imaginary or they weren't really there, and that's what came out, they maybe have a chance to say and prove that. But the reality is, public health is going to have the evidence. They're going to have pictures. They're going to have the public health inspector. They may have had a consumer complaint. We don't know. I think all those when you put all those things together, you have a really good chance of success.
Yeah.
So to think that um, just your good food is going to save you, or just because you're a nice person is going to be enough, it's not. It
Yeah.
isn't. That's just not reality. It's not. It's not a realistic thing to to consider even. So although you have to have all those things in place, and then never mind pricing and all the other thing that
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the things that happen. So um, it's again unfortunate, but it's that this is reality, and restaurants have to remember uh, that public health,
Mhm.
their number one job is to protect the public. In Alberta, 15 years ago or more, public health was told by an auditor general review
Yep.
that they needed to remember that their job was to protect the public and not the restaurant.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
So that's where we're at. Public health is doing their job. They're protecting the public. Some people in the restaurant industry, have a don't have necessarily a good relationship with public health, and I think that should change.
Yeah. Well, I
I think
think
it should
I think
change, and I think it's slowly
yeah.
starting to change.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
getting there. I think it's the way that unfortunately, there was a lot of situations like that in the industry, not only in this space but other spaces, with other inspectors coming in. That it's changing quite a bit from when I was in the industry out there in the field, but very interesting on what it is. I have a last question here for you as we wrap up today's show. Is a question on this: Can cockroaches get in your home?
Yes.
No
Oh yeah.
way.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's a public housing facility, that might
Yeah.
get posted, and you might see news on that
Ooh.
where there's an insect infestation or a
Yeah.
roach infestation in the public. They absolutely can get in your home.
Really?
Oh yeah, and again, make a home, grow and multiply, and
Yeah.
and it's gross if you've seen a cockroach infestation.
Yeah.
Um,
I can only imagine. It's horrible. It's
yeah,
horrible.
we seen one in a small bakery maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and they had roaches. We saw it in an inspection, and then they asked us to come back and try and figure out where they were from, and where it was in this the bottom maybe 6 inches of this aluminum small proofer that they had, which is like a steam box, right, with heat and steam to raise bread, to help bread rise. In the bottom, sort of 4 or 5 inches on the ground, that was starting to corrode. So they had this corrosion problem, and we saw the roaches. So we went in there, early one morning before they started, and we put some glue boards down, and sure enough, they were coming out of the proofer walls.
Wow.
So what they did is they contacted, we gave them a pest control company to contact. And what they did was they ended up, the pest control company kind of sprayed on a day that they were closed around the proofer. And, I think we saw maybe 20 or 30 dead roaches from that. But then in a week later, we still saw roaches in the facility. And we told pest control guys, you got to come back because there's still an issue there. And they said, well, we're pretty sure we got them. And we just asked them, what's the next step? What more can you do? And what they did is they wrapped the proofer in this big plastic bag, more or less. It's like it's this big. They wrapped it and taped it.
Wow.
And then they atomized the pesticide, the pesticide into.
Wow.
So they pressurized this thing, and the bag got really big, like it blew up, so that the pesticide could penetrate into the cavity, the walls of the.
Wow.
And they did that overnight. I think it was over 4 hours, which is what the kill thing was. They need an hour, but they do 4. Yeah. And we go back the next morning. We saw it at night when they did it, where they taped it and stuff, because we wanted to make sure that everything was protected. So we said, hey guys, you got to remove all the food. We don't want a contamination issue, because that could be just as bad or worse than the roaches. So they removed all the food to another, I think the unit next door, they had it in, covered it all up, put it all in bags. So everything was sort of sealed.
Yeah.
And just this proofer was wrapped in this thing. Then they double wrapped it, and they put this thing on at, I think, 11 at night. It was going to go off at 3 in the morning. We went back at 5 when the pest control people were going back. And there was thousands of roaches on the floor in the middle of this thing.
Wow.
It was wild. You would never have thought that there could be that many bugs inside. And this thing was, if it was maybe 3 feet wide by 5 feet or 3 feet by 4 feet. It
really?
Oh, no, it was tiny. I think it held 2 racks side by side. So it might have been 4 feet. I don't think it was even 4 feet wide. Thousands.
Wow.
So, it's not, what they say with roaches, just, we're almost done here. What they say with roaches, though, if you see one, because you're not supposed to see them, they're nocturnal. They like dark.
Yeah.
You have a really big problem if you see one.
If you see one, you have a
really big problem. If you see multiple ones, you got a really, really big problem, because normally they're not out, right? They're kind of hiding. They come out when it's dark or when there's no activity. So that's you can have them. You can have them in your house. You can have them in your business. You can take them from your house to your business. Your employees can take them from their house to their business. Your employees can take them from your work or their second job to your business. That's cleanliness in general, right? If they're coming to work dirty, that your business is going to be affected. So
clean. I was gonna say clean. Now that I got the heebie-jeebies, thanks. Yeah, thanks. I'm like grossed out.
We will have a pest control person on, because they have some horrific stories from restaurants. They do. They really do.
I can only imagine. So people can learn more at safecheck1.com.
Yeah.
They can sign up for the information and the courses out there that are going to help with this situations. Is there anything else you want to tell them?
We have a free delivery driver course on there that talks about personal hygiene.
Yeah.
It talks about a little bit about pests, but pets even. Your pets could have insects as well, right? If you got pets at home.
Well, absolutely. Well, I think can I know this is always this is gonna maybe I shouldn't even say it, but did ticks become a problem in restaurants too?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
But
Okay.
I think ticks can.
Because ticks are in animals all the time. We're
Yeah.
worried about them
Yeah.
all the time.
Well, you're not supposed to have animals in restaurants, but if you get out into some of these places that are in remote places that there's animals around, they're not supposed to be in the kitchen, but there's animals. They're going out. They're not going to be an infestation problem in food, and they can carry disease. Lyme disease, I think, is the ticks, right?
Yeah.
And if they get on you, so you got to be careful of them. But fleas, bed bugs, lice,
Yeah.
ants, cockroaches, mice. Even mice can come in with people into your workplace from their home.
especially like if you look at Calgary and how vast it's getting out to the fields, it's growing so much. It's taking those habited areas, right, and growing into it. So I can see why it's becoming a problem. But what a creepy crawly conversation. So thank you for.
Yeah, sorry, but thank you, Jay.
No, thank you. So go to SafeCheck1.com, learn more about this. I am like got goosebumps. I'm grossed out. So thank you for making it gross and creepy today. So, anyways, we'll be back again next week with more information. What are we gonna tackle? You gonna tackle that Wimmis?
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about WMIS. We're going to talk about other sort of workplace safety training that we have. I think we're that we'll talk about like a bunch of them. WMIS would be a long 45 minutes. We could offer the course and give everybody a certificate at the end of it. But I think we'll do WMIS and TDG and personal protective equipment and fire extinguisher, fire safety.
Fire safety's got to be a good one. That's a great one. I have no idea.
Yeah, we have no. Yeah, we're so ill prepared for so many things, right? And this training exists because something's happened at some point, right?
Well, that's usually what it is. But I want to get into that fire safety stuff because that's interesting. Because I've seen some restaurants recently go down in fires, and I've got a lot of conversations around that. And I have one that I'm not going to say, unfortunately, but I see some bad stuff happening out of the kitchen there that's got me worried about it catching on fire. And and
different
conversation, but
it's tough, eh? Well, we'll talk about it. But I would hope if I was at a restaurant, I'm kind of a lifelong learner. I think you're the same. You would be open to somebody telling you, "Hey, I think that's a fire hazard." Unfortunately, some places are, who the hell are you? What are you telling me? Like, I've been here for 25 years. Like,
oh, you've heard that a few times.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Like,
but that's the thing is, but here's the cool thing is about this, and I think this is what's great about our podcast around this subjects, is that I ran a lot of restaurants in my past. Well, today, not knowing that pest controls, you need a plan, a strategy, program, hygiene program. Didn't know about that either. All these things I had no idea that you had to have in place. So this is really great about what you do and what you can offer the public and the people in the industry, because nothing's worse is doing all this hard work. You're worried about food, inflation, labor, pricing, driving people into your restaurant, and a bloody cockroach takes you out. It's like,
that's terrible.
I didn't see it come. It's horrible, right? So I think when you have all this and you understand this should be, when you look at the overall strategy of your business plan, when you are working on your restaurant, there has to be a whole safety section within your restaurant. And I've never seen that before. I'll be honest. I don't see that very often.
I'll tell you, you've seen it. And you don't, because you were a young kid and you were working at, where you're working and you almost blew up the place or whatever you did. But they had a program.
Yes.
Jack in the Box had a program. McDonald's has all these companies have this program in place because food safety is one of the number one things that can put you out of business.
Yeah.
It is.
Fast too. Fast.
Right. We talked about, truck drivers and stuff yesterday in a different conversation about the guilt that in a car accident, especially if it's a big truck and they hit a little van or whatever happens, that person, even though it wasn't out of their control, the guilt they feel because they took another life as part of that accident. Restaurants feel the same way when people get sick. Most restaurants, the ones that know stuff happened. That's nobody. We never talk about that side of it. But the people that died, that's tragic. It's terrible for those families. It's absolutely terrible that you go to a place and eat there, and your one of your loved ones gets sick and dies. It is usually just as it also tragic, maybe not just as tragic, but also devastating to the people that made and served that food. It is not their intention to make people sick.
No,
right?
Not at all. No, not at all. Now, I have a question for you, though.
That pressure it's horrific. It's really, really bad. It's unimaginable for most of us. It's just we cannot Yeah.
So, question: how many people die a year in North America from food?
Oh, I don't know. North America. In Canada, it'd be about
Canada
250.
Well, wait a minute. You saying 250 people die a year in Canada because of food safety?
Foodborne illness, yeah.
Really?
Foodborne illness, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the attributed cases. The suspicion is that the number's larger.
Well, yeah. What?
So,
that many?
Yeah.
That's like one plane flying, dropping out of the air every year.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. I always do it that way. Simon Sinek always compares it to a plane crash. Right?
Well, we don't
think about it, but that's what it is, right?
It's one here, two there. It's like
it adds up.
It adds up, yeah. It does. And unfortunately, cases like this add to that. You talk about the negative publicity from the media. I think, and I probably never said it when you asked about it, I think sometimes there's not enough attention.
If you said that many, I kind of agree with you now because I didn't know it was that high.
Let's say it was 10 and not 200. Let's say it was 20.
It's still a lot. Still, no matter what.
Most of it is preventable.
Wow.
Most of it is preventable.
That's crazy. I didn't know it was that high.
Almost all of it is preventable.
I was going to say
because the reality is, it's not something that fell out of the sky that we had no control over, right? It wasn't a meteor hitting your restaurant. It was something you purchased.
Yeah.
Now, you might have not had control over. You had control over where you purchased it. So if you pick the wrong supplier, we talked a few weeks ago. Yeah. People buying stuff out of their, somebody's garage in the city that's not licensed to sell food.
Yeah.
You made that choice, right? It happens. So
that's crazy.
Did you have bought from a better supplier? Yes. Could you have done a better job cleaning? Yes. Could you have trained your staff? Yes. Could you have had a pest control program? Yes. Like all these things are yeses, right? So we have the ability. We have the ability to make safe food, and guess what? Thousands and thousands and thousands of restaurants do it. They do, and they do a good job of it. So, yeah,
awesome. Well, thanks again, Dominic, for today and creeping me out a little. Didn't know anything else. And to everyone else, listen again next week because we're back again with our food safety and everything else show that Dominic's going to get into Wemyss. And hopefully no more bug talk. I'm good for bug talk for a while.
Yeah, we'll get
into some other stuff.
Okay, cool.
I'm good with that. Awesome. Thanks, Dominic. We'll chat later. Thanks so much. Take care.